Welcome.
You are watching Line Screw 1.
There's no doubt that the cure is worse than the disease, but you have to understand exactly what I'm referring to, because you have to separate the two things that we're doing. So first you have the efforts to contain the spread of the virus, right? Where everybody is encouraged to stay at home and not to interact and not to go to work, right? So that's part of it. And you can argue whether or not this is actually the appropriate policy. I mean, clearly there's a big cost. If that's the policy, if that's what we're going to do, then we've got to be willing to accept the economic consequences of that, right? If we're all going to stop working, then it's going to cost something. And there's no way the government can magically eliminate those costs. It's just a sacrifice that we're all going to have to make, in that we're going to have less money. We're going to have less stuff to buy. Economic activity is going to slow down. People are going to lose jobs. We have to decide whether or not that is worth it to avoid this contagion, right? Or, is it not worth it? I mean, obviously, one of the things that's happened because so few people are now driving to work is the number of fatal accidents has gone down. So by everybody staying home, fewer people are dying in automobile accidents. Now, okay, so should we stay home indefinitely so people don't die in automobile accidents? Or, is our automobile accidents an accepted consequence of our lives? I mean, every time we get into a car, we know there's a small chance that we could die in an accident, but we go in a car anyway because we want to enjoy life and we're willing to take that small risk. So the question is, what are we giving up? Is it actually worth the small risk that we end up, getting the coronavirus and then we end up dying from it, which is very, very rare. In fact, the only people that really die from it are people who are old and have a lot of other health problems. And maybe they should be the ones that are staying home, and everybody else should just be going about their lives, maybe a little bit more cautious about washing their hands and about not, getting too close to people. But there's a lot of gaps, a lot of daylight between what we're doing now and that. So that's one thing. And, I'm not an expert on medicine or science. And so I'm not even going to really opine on whether or not this is the correct response. What I am talking about is what the government is doing in addition to that. Because we're all staying at home, the government feels that they have to give everybody a bunch of money, right? So the government has to bail out all the businesses, bail out all the workers, bail out everybody who's supposedly sacrificing, to fight this war on the coronavirus. And the Fed is just creating trillions and trillions of dollars magically out of thin air. And we're handing it to companies, we're handing it to individuals, we're handing it out to states. That is what I think is going to do all the economic damage, because that money is not free. See, nobody is asking, how are we going to pay for all this money? I mean, if all of us are sitting at home and not working, yet we're getting all these checks in the mail, and a lot of people are going to be getting more money not working than they were paid when they actually had work, when they were doing stuff. But they're not producing anything. They're just sitting at home watching Netflix, and the money is just arriving. And so if we're just going to just shower the country with money that didn't exist until the Fed just magically conjured it into existence, what are the consequences of that? We're going to destroy the value of our money. And so people are going to suffer. And all of the things the government is doing to bail out businesses that probably should fail because they're not viable, and everything that we're doing to encourage people not to work is simply going to exacerbate the economic pain that is being created. It's going to delay any kind of recovery. And the other factor that people have to consider is, why is the U.S. economy in such a vulnerable position so that this coronavirus is so harmful? And that's because of the debt. That's because of everybody in the economy was, maxed out with debt. companies were levered up, employees were levered up. So the typical company doesn't have money saved up so that they can go a couple of months without revenue, yet still be able to pay their expenses. I mean, a normal economy, that would be the case. Companies would have a nice reserve of cash in case something goes wrong. I mean, if it's not coronavirus, I mean, a lot of different things can go wrong. And when you operate a business, you need to make sure that if those things go wrong, you're not out of business. So you maintain an adequate amount of reserves. And of course, if times go bad, you can furlough workers, right? And you can recall them when business picks up. Under a normal economy, workers can go a few months or longer without a paycheck because workers have savings, because while they're working, they put money aside and they don't borrow money to buy stuff on a credit card. They don't borrow money to take vacations or, to buy cars. They buy cars they can afford and they pay cash so they can survive. But because of the Fed keeping interest rates so artificially low, everybody is living paycheck to paycheck. Nobody can go any amount of time without that revenue coming in. And so all the corporations are failing. All the individuals can't pay their rent, can't pay their mortgages. This whole house of cards that the Federal Reserve has inflated with constant bailouts and stimulus, instead of allowing a solid economy to replace the bubble, that's why we're in such bad shape now. But if the money is just created and you don't do anything, if you don't add any services, if you don't add any goods, then the money has no value. It's just paper. I mean, all money does is it enables everybody to allocate what's been produced. And the more you earn, the more you get to consume. It's like you have a greater claim on output. So if, let's say you set up a business and you produce all sorts of goods that benefit society that people get to buy, the profit that you earn now entitles you to go into society and buy stuff because you are taking out in proportion to what you put in, right? So money simply allows us to divide up what we've all collectively produced. But if we don't produce anything and we just have money, then the money doesn't have any value. The money derives its value from the goods and services that we create, that we all agree we're going to allocate based on that monetary unit. So all we're doing now is increasing the demands for what's already there. We're allowing people to bid higher prices to buy the goods and services that are already there. And the problem is, because people are not working as much and not producing and not providing services, the supply of goods and services that we're collectively producing has declined. And if we just add more money into that, then prices have to go way up because we have less stuff to buy and more money to buy it with. So everybody just bids up prices, and all the Fed is doing is creating inflation. And that doesn't benefit anybody. I mean, if what the Fed is doing worked, if we really could have all this stuff for free, then why did we wait for the coronavirus? I mean, why not just do it all the time? I mean, if there's no consequence, why are we even paying taxes? Why doesn't the government just print the money it needs and just spend it?
And now, a non sequitur moment.
Help! 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 Awesome!
Gonna figure out what we've done, what we need, what to do. Yeah, I got you, I got you, I got you.